After a year's wait of Fairy Tail anime being gone, we finally got that episode 176, that continuation, and I think most of us Fairy Tail anime fans can just rejoice that we got our anime back. Now, this episode actually had quite a bit of content, and I was just actually shocked at how much went down within this episode, as opposed to what I thought was going to happen. Now, I will say that one of the things with this episode that I was a little bit, thrown off with was, while in the beginning, we get the foreshadowing of what this seems to be, the outcome of this whole thing with the dragon. So, it starts off that way, and it was interesting. It kind of reminded me of the beginning of Shippuden when they foreshadowed that Naruto was going to meet up with Sasuke, and they were giving you, a preview or whatever. But then, at the end of the episode, they added some more of that as well, and I'm curious, is this going to be seeing, the actual event? I was just a little bit thrown off with that, because we get, in the beginning, that, and then we get our timeline, which is prior to any of that happening, and then we go back to that at the end of the episode. So I don't know what was the need to put it at the end of the episode. Is the episode going to be like that from now on? Was that just in particular that they wanted to hype us up for it? So I was a little thrown off by that, but aside from that, a lot of stuff went down in this episode. First of all, hints as to who the hooded person may be, and Jalal actually finds out who it is. I was a little bit we totally could have seen that. They didn't need to hold that back from us. That was something we definitely could have seen. But nonetheless, it was giving us more hints. The handwriting was bad. There was a couple little hints here and there, and also Jalal said that was a female. If you don't know who it is, then definitely there's some clues there for you to go off of. And it was just good advancing one of the big mysteries in Fairy Tail, because when we last left off, we were curious who the hell was this hooded person that we've been wondering about, and they give us more hints within this episode. But it doesn't stop there, because then we also get something within the Sabretooth Guild. Now, my personal feelings, knowing what I know regarding the manga, I'll put them aside to say what went on in that particular guild hall, as of what we've seen thus far, was actually very interesting and actually pretty hype, because not only everything that happened, but also one of the critiques that the Fairy Tail anime gets is that it doesn't show blood. And while there was a split second, we did get to see some blood when the blast went through, was it Genma or Gamma? I think it's Genma, I'm not sure. But the leader of Sabretooth, when he gets blasted from Sting, you can see blood from around the circle. So they actually decided to put in blood. It was dark, it was quick, but nonetheless, there was blood in Fairy Tail anime. Yes, people. And just overall, that scene, it kind of gave a little bit more characterization regarding Sting. He really is attached to this cat, because that made him just go balls deep and actually kill the leader. You could argue, how the hell could he do that? Genma's supposed to be the strong leader of Sabretooth. He's supposed to be beyond all of them, and he just pierced them. But at the end of the day, he did, catch him off guard, by surprise. And nonetheless, also, he was in a very heightened state. And, when people get really emotional in Fairy Tail, they get pretty damn strong. So that's the best way to describe that particular event. Some might not like it, or whatever the case may be, but nonetheless, it was an epic moment, and it just kind of advanced that character and where he's going, and ultimately where he's going to end up, because it showed that he really cares for his comrades now. So he's different from what the master of Sabretooth is, and what some of the Sabretooth Guild members are. In a way, it picked up straight from where the anime left off, because Gajeel comes in and he shows him to the graveyard, similar to how, I believe it was episode 175, it ended with him being in the carriage and seeing all the bones everywhere. So it goes straight away from there, and you get to see a little bit of the dragons. The Zirconi's the dragon of Jade. You get to see him. Pretty funny, which is really weird, because you never thought, a dragon would be funny, especially all the things we heard about them. Although we could assume that they have more personality to them than, just gobbling people, because if they, trained these kids and they were loving with these kids, you can assume that they had different personalities. But with this one, you get to see this guy is weird and a troll. And he's I will answer to no humans. And Happy says, but I'm a cat. Oh, okay, let me tell you everything. I'm just yeah, pretty troll funny stuff. I'll give it that. That was hilarious right there. And it was really important how it dived into the backstory of the Dragon Slayers. And pretty much, if you continuously use this magic and kill, you will eventually turn into a dragon. Now, that's very important for the Dragon Slayers, mainly the real ones, I believe, because I'm not sure if the Lacrimal ones that would actually, affect them, Loxus and them. It would have been nice to, get an understanding of that. Maybe them question it themselves. But the three real ones, the ones that were actually trained by dragons, Natsu, Gajeel, and Wendy, they definitely had their own reservations regarding it. Natsu seems to be hell's fucking yeah, oh my god, I'd be able to turn into a real dragon, while the other two are clearly no, we don't want to be dragons. So it's interesting to find that out, and it also pushes forward the heritage of the Dragon Slayers and the dragons in general, and kind of some of the connections, and we get a little bit more of the actor Logi as well. Hands down, one of, if not the greatest villains in all of Fairy Tail, the one motherfucker that all of them went at him, and they still couldn't take that bad boy down. So love the mention of him, and just getting a little bit more of his history, his involvement with Zeroth, and it just kind of was diving more into that rich backstory of the, the Dragon Slayers, and it kind of makes you question question and go back into some theories of the Dragon Slayers, because the dragons existed 400 years ago, and they claim, you know, they disappeared from our world 14 years ago, and that's assuming that they were even in our world. So there's a lot of questions you can argue there regarding the Dragon Slayers, and it all goes back to that theory as well, when Natsu and Gajeel were claimed to be over 80 years old during the Laxus festival fight or whatever. So then some very interesting stuff with that, and just as a whole, this episode brought a lot of content to the table. The only thing I can really say about this episode that kind of ruined the flow of it was the beginning and ending. While it was super epic, looked absolutely gorgeous, and it was just amazing, in particular the ending was what kind of made me like confused, because the beginning is like, okay, you can assume that's foreshadowing for what's to come, and just overall, okay, that was amazing, great start, and then it's just kind of giving us back to prior to those events. But then in the end of the episode, it throws out again, and it's just like, what's going on? Now, I got a little bit confused with that whole particular part. And then at the end of the episode, you have that Pinocchio-looking knight. I forget his name. It's been a long time, but we get him, and also Yukino, which Yukino, that's kind of advancing her character, because initially, you know, she went through that whole phase where she was put down by Sabretooth, and they made her strip butt-ass naked and everything. So you kind of see this is probably what pushed her to be now this knight, and she's very serious and everything. So that's where her character ultimately led. And I just felt as though this episode had really, really good progression. The pacing for, I believe they only did 300, 301, and I think a little bit of 302, I'm not sure, but for only a couple of chapters, and they might have pulled some stuff from later events, I'm not sure, but for only a couple of chapters, they did a phenomenal job with pacing. It just felt very well paced. The only issue I will say is the ending, when they threw that whole stuff in there again with going back to Natsu fighting those dragons with Lucy. It's like, this is so epic, but why is it thrown in there, and what's going on? It kind of like was ruining the whole vibe of everything, because it's just like, this is so epic, and it just kind of was thrown in there. But other than that, very good episode, I gotta say. I'm gonna give this one 8.5 out of 10. Very good start for Fairy Tail. There was some comedy, some relaxing moments, and then it kicked into high gear, the reintroduction to all these characters, and just a lot of progression for the story. And I quickly want to note regarding the opening and the ending, really enjoyable. The ending is very chill and relaxing and beautiful animation. The opening kind of has like this sad war type of feel in a way, because it's like, okay, you know, it starts off and the tone and the melody kind of sounds a little sad, and then when it kicks into high gear, it's like, hells yeah, woo, 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 and the ending is just relaxing, enjoyable, and the animation, oh, they made definitely the parts with Natsu versus Dragons look absolutely glorious. The rest of it was actually pretty decent animation, looked good, the art looked good and whatnot. It wasn't anything as good as the Natsu versus, you know, Dragons part, but it still looked decent. And overall, I liked how the character models, it actually made a lot of the characters look better. In particular, I had reservations regarding Lucy. I think now with this new character design, she looks way better, to be honest with you. Likewise with Erza. Natsu was like, didn't really care either way. His character design was fine before, it's fine now. And that's pretty much my overall thoughts so far with this first episode of the new Fairy Tail, 2014, or if you want to call it episode 176. They're doing a damn good job of this, and let's just keep it going, because this is one of those series where you can just sit back, relax, and enjoy, and that's what I did with this one. Let me know what you guys think. Any theories regarding anything? If you're an anime-only viewer, what do you just think about having the anime back? Are you excited to go into this Fairy Tail? It's like, regardless of what, I'm going to, for the most part, enjoy this simply because it's animated, and I've said it once and I'll say it again, Fairy Tail anime over the manga. But that's all I have for this one. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Thumbs up for that Fairy Tail anime return. We finally got it, and episode 1 started off with a freaking bang. I'm Finetworld, and as always, people, have an awesome day.